read Dune?
No, but I've seen the movie.
Okay. Do you understand whether his character will come back from the dead in the third movie?
As again, I didn't read the book, so he might. I don't know. We're just talking about that one movie.
That might be a bit of a spoiler.
Oh, man. Dude.
He's one of the principal leads in the new Fast and Furious franchise movie Fast X, right?
I don't know that for sure, no.
Okay. But that's not the career path that Ms. Heard has had. She's never been the title character in a movie. She hasn't spent years on television. She did, what, 8 TV shows? 8 single episodes of TV?
Again, I don't have her resume. If you want to show it to me, we can count them together.
All right. Mr. Momoa remains well-liked, even though he's engaged in a recent divorce from another actor. That's correct, right?
I don't know. I don't follow his fan base.
You don't follow Jason Momoa, but you use him as a comparable to come up with a $45 million.
I said I don't follow his fan base. I understand him as a prominent actor in the business, but I don't follow his fan base.
Isn't fan base one of the things that you analyze?
Of course, you can look at numbers, but I don't keep a watch on his social media feeds.
All right. All right. You indicated that Gal Gadot is in Wonder Woman.
Yes, she's a star.
She's in fact Wonder Woman.
I know, she's good too.
Yeah. All right. She's the title character. And there's been now multiple Wonder Woman movies, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And even before that, she was in franchise films.
Which one are you referring to?
Fast and Furious.
Oh. Excuse me, I honestly don't remember her being that as one of the main characters. I know it's The Rock and
you didn't even know she was in the Fast and Furious franchise.
I've seen it on her resume, but I didn't. Again, I'm not a fan of Fast and Furious.
All right. You'll agree with me that Wonder Woman is a more prominent role than Mira?
If you're going to talk about apples to apples in that exact movie, yes.
Right. What about, does Mira have any, self-titled franchise films?
Not yet.
No. And Ms. Gadot played a much bigger role in the movie they were in together, the Justice League movie.
In what movie they were in together? Oh, in Justice League?
Yeah.
I haven't counted the screen time, so I can't really say.
Okay. You indicated that another person that you compared Ms. Heard with is Zendaya. Right?
Zendaya, yeah.
Person so famous she goes by one name.
I guess when you have a name that's a Z, it works, I guess.
All right. She's been on the Disney Channel since she's 13 years old.
Right.
Right? She's won an Emmy.
Yes, she did.
Right. She was singing and dancing and swinging from trapezes in The Greatest Showman, right?
Yes.
Yeah. She's now been in multiple Spider-Man movies.
Yes.
She's 10 years younger than your client.
Right.
Yeah. But this is a person that you deemed a comparable.
Well, as I was explaining to you how I chose them, when you look at superhero characters, there's not that many to pull from. So I worked on pulling characters that were in superhero movies that were about the same age range within 10 years, as you've noted to me, thank you. And also just where her career would have gone. I said that they were comparables, they're not identical. So you can just look at what their career has done either before that superhero movie, then in others, or the one they were in, and then you look at where her career should have gone. Even though she may not have been at the stature of a Zendaya at that time, you can still look at it as a comparable trajectory of what happens when you're in a blockbuster movie. It's just a reference point. It's not meant to be identical. They're not meant to be the same people, or not even have the exact same career. It's meant to be a reference point. Simple as that.
So far, everybody we've looked at have been in more blockbuster movies than Ms. Heard.
But Miss Heard was also in the biggest blockbuster movie, and the light that shines on Jason Momoa will also shine on her. So you have to look at it in context of the biggest movie that DC
In the DC
Comics
universe.
and also one of the biggest box office films ever, probably within the top 10, because I've looked at it, right? So that light was going to shine brighter on her than someone who wasn't in that movie. And again, it would have just helped her in her career move forward, not stalled it and be in her world be silent afterwards.
For the jury to accept your damage analysis, they would have to agree with you that Ms. Heard was on the precipice of a meteoric rise. That's the word you used, right?
Actually, no, I didn't. I did use meteoric with someone like, let's say, Gal Gadot or Zendaya, but I actually gave you a range and gave the jury a range that they weren't all going to have a meteoric rise. Some of them would be smaller, right? And so what the numbers that I gave you do not represent a meteoric rise. A meteoric rise is when Jason Momoa goes from, I don't know, 4 million, 5 million to a $50 million payday. That's a meteoric shift in our business. But when someone has contracts that actually go from 1 million to the first one, 2 million, and then 4 million, that is standard for a franchise that is perceived to do well. And so I based those calculations on very specific numbers that were already contracted. I wanted to stay within reality and look at the numbers that were already contracted for Ms. Heard and just move out forward on one film a year, maybe a TV show here or there, and some endorsement contracts, which is very typical for an actor in our business to make that kind of money. It just is what happens.
So the example you just used is somebody went from 1 million to 2 million to 4 million. Your client has never had a contract that exceeds $2 million, correct?
Incorrect.
All right.
In the Aquaman it's actually the Justice League contract because they're associated. So Justice League, Aquaman, she was paid $1 million. Then in Aquaman 2, it was written that she was going to earn $2 million. And if there's another one, it was written in the terms that she would get $4 million. So it actually was a contract that Ms. Heard signed with the studio.
Right, but the movie hasn't been made.
Aquaman 2 hasn't even come out yet, so the third one is still on deck, as they say.
Yeah. Okay, let's put it differently. Your client's never been paid $2 million for a movie she appeared in.
She was paid $2 million for Aquaman.
Right.
Aquaman 2.
And she's never been paid $4 million.
She was contracted to be paid, and when the movie goes, that's what she will be paid. So that's what I said. She was
If she's in the movie.
Right, but if Aquaman 2 does even nearly as well as Aquaman 1, there's going to most likely be a third one. So we can look at that as a precedent that was set in writing, actually.
If a movie makes $795 million, you think there's likely to be a next one?
If it was the first or the second one, but if it's the fifth in the series, I assume that you're referring to Pirates 5. It performed well at the box office, yes, but certainly not in comparison to some of the other ones. And that's what a studio like Disney will look at to say, has that franchise had its run? Or do we need to change it?
A studio like Disney wants to walk away from an $800 million payday?
Well, an $800 million payday has to be put into context to the budget that it costs to get that movie and then the marketing thereafter. And with the increasing costs of not only Mr. Depp's fee or any of the, and plus the other actors' fees, plus general production costs that are getting more expensive, then you put in the marketing costs, which are sometimes 1, 2, or 3 times the budget of the film. A film like that, a studio can spend $600-800 million just making and marketing the film. So $795 million is a lot of money, and it seems like a really good box office, but you have to put into perspective of what's spent on production, marketing, and the overhead costs that the studio takes. So you have, again, it's all in context of what the budget of the film and the marketing of the film is.
All right, let's put some more things in context. Ana de Armas, that's another one you used.
Yes.
All right. She, most recently, I guess, in Deep Water with Ben Affleck.
I don't, again, I know some of the movies that she's been in. I don't remember about Deep Water. I don't even know if that's out yet,
Okay.
to be honest.
She was in the last James Bond movie.
Yes, she was.
Yeah. They were talking about making her the next female Bond, right?
Right, after her big Stars Born moment, yeah, she's gotten a lot more big roles, which is what we had hoped for Ms. Heard.
Yeah. And you said that her breakout role was Blade Runner?
It was like the first big, studio movie that got a lot of attention. I believe that was the one that we can look at as a marker for her, sure.
Did you watch Blade Runner 2049?
I did.
Do you know what she did in the movie?
It was years ago. I don't remember exactly what she was in, what role she played, but she was in that movie, and from that, her agents used that as leverage to get her more movies.
You have no knowledge that her principal role in that movie was as a gigantic naked billboard?
Are you saying that's the only thing she was? She was a gigantic naked billboard. She wasn't in the movie.
That's the principal role in that movie.
I don't remember the movie well enough to know.
Okay. And did you know that she was? I talked a little bit about Ben Affleck, right?
Right.
He's an interesting example because he's been in a role that's been recast multiple times. You know that role?
We're talking about Batman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Batman.
Sure.
All right. So the title character in that DC series has seen how many actors?
Several.
Right. Michael Keaton,
He was Batman.
Val Kilmer.
You're a movie buff, yeah.
Yeah. Christian Bale was Batman.
I think he was, you're right.
George Clooney was Batman.
Definitely.
Yeah. I guess Robert Pattinson is now Batman.
Don't know.
Okay. But you're taking an absolutely iconic role that the DC universe has recast 4, 5, 6 times, correct?
Correct.
So that just because you have the role in the first movie or the second movie doesn't mean you get it in the third movie or the fourth movie.
Unless it's contractual.
Right. Unless it's contractual. So, now, let's look. Ana de Armas, she's like the new Marilyn Monroe on Netflix, too, right?
I believe so. She was also in Knives Out, which is probably even a bigger breakout role for her. But again, I chose Blade Runner because it's a similar thing. You have to start somewhere. But Knives Out probably was her big moment in time.
Yeah. All right. The other person you picked was Chris Pine. Chris Pine is in a superhero movie, Wonder Woman.
He is in Wonder Woman. He's also, well, Star Trek being a blockbuster, but not necessarily a superhero, right?
Yeah. He was in both Wonder Woman movies, right?
Yes, he plays the love interest to Gal Gadot, yeah.
Yeah. On Star Trek, in the Star Trek franchise, he plays Captain Kirk, right?
I don't remember exact role that he played. I didn't see it in the movie. I just know it from his resume, to be honest.
Do you know who Captain Kirk is?
Yes, I do.
Right.
Well,
but you didn't know that Chris Pine is Captain Kirk in Star Trek?
I hate to say I'm not a Star Trek fan.
Okay. But you used Mr. Pine as an example, irrespective of the fact you didn't even know he starred in this franchise film?
I did know that he starred. That's why I used it. Again,
in fact, he was the most prominent person in the movie.
We can go over this a couple more times, and I'm happy to do so. All I wanted to do was look at, from a small pool of people that have been in huge franchise movies or superhero movies, and give you a sense of what the range is or what someone's trajectory can be. Again, they are not apples and apples. They're not both green apples or both red apples. I just was looking at a range. It's what we do. It's what we do in the industry. It's what you do to kind of get a sense of how much you're going to pay an actor, what they're worth in the foreign markets and the domestic markets.
I think my question was, did you know whether he was in Star Trek?
Yes, and you were asking me why I chose him, which is what this conversation is about. And again, I chose him because he was part of Star Trek and Wonder Woman, but mostly because he was in Wonder Woman. And I don't know the exact time frame of which came first, but the fact that he's in both of them is consistent with what actors of this ilk tend to do once they're in a movie like this.
But you talked about breakout roles, but you don't know which was his breakout role.
Chris Pine's been an actor. He's been a well-liked actor. He was in both Star Trek and in Wonder Woman. And
Did a
Star
movie
Trek,
with Denzel Washington?
Pardon?
Did a movie with Denzel Washington?
He's had a good career.
Yeah, great career.
Yeah.
Yeah, much longer career than Ms. Heard, right?
She was on the precipice of a great career.
Yeah.
She hasn't had the chance to negotiate for that yet or be in those movies yet, so we don't know yet.
We're getting back to precipice. Didn't you just deny precipice a few minutes ago? I thought your testimony was she was on the precipice of meteoric rise. You said, I guess.
I didn't say meteoric. I said consistent. I don't know. She could have a meteoric rise, but I was talking about consistent with Ms. Heard.
All right. So of the actors you selected, 2 of them are the title characters in their DC movies. One
is Aquaman. Who's the other title character?
Gal Gadot.
Wonder Woman, right. She's Wonder Woman. And you mean Jason Momoa, sure. Yeah.
So you get 2 title characters. You got James Kirk. And those are the people that you thought were most representative of Ms. Heard.
Again, there are not that many in the pool to pick from. I'm not going to put comparable actors that haven't been in either large, what we call tentpole movies, or franchise movies, or superhero movies. So I wanted to work within those parameters, and that's what I did. So those are the actors I chose, yes. And to
one of the actors you chose had a much longer TV career than Ms. Heard.
Again, they were all in superhero or franchise movies that did very, very well at the box office.
And there are tons of actors and actresses who are in superhero movies that don't have meteoric rises thereafter, correct?
Not when they're the lead character with Jason Momoa, but to your point, there are many actors that have no career prior to a breakout role and then have a meteoric career and have had no career prior. So you don't always just look at the past. It's helpful, and with Ms. Heard, she had good reviews, so that's what I looked at. But if you look at other actors and they have their first role and all of a sudden they become a superstar from one role. So that happens in our business. It just does.
All right. With respect to your comparable actors, you have no personal knowledge as to how much any of them were compensated over the period you reviewed.
Incorrect.
You have personal knowledge as to who?
Jason Momoa.
And you derive that personal knowledge from talking to somebody?
Yes.
He didn't tell you.
His agent did.
Okay. So what you will rely on what Mr. Momoa's agent told you, but you have no knowledge. You didn't see the contract.
No, his agent is at William Morris as well, so they told me that.
Right. And you've never seen anybody else's contracts as to what they were making.
No, but in 25 years of being in this business, I understand the basis of which actors are paid when they're in blockbuster films and then they're in large budgeted studio films. So it's not a leap to kind of understand where the actor's making. And again, I really didn't want to try to be speculative in my analysis. I wanted to work with the numbers that Amber had contracted for already and just take it from there and said if she had done one movie a year and one series and done product endorsement, that's how I got to the number. So I wasn't looking to take her on a meteoric rise. I wasn't looking to give her the same career as Jason Momoa. I took her numbers that her agents had actually negotiated and worked from there.
When you say you weren't trying to give her the same career as Jason Momoa, the TV program that she most recently did, The Stand, she made $200,000 an episode. That's what you testified to.
Correct.
And in your damage analysis, you give her $1 million an episode had the Waldman statements not occurred. And you do it only because you believe Mr. Momoa has gotten that in something that he's in.
Right.
So you are giving her the same career as Jason Momoa.
Well, again, with someone like Ms. Heard, who was in a blockbuster film with a team at William Morris, in my discussions with William Morris, that's what they were looking to negotiate for her on other projects. So I got some of that information from her management team directly.
So her agents were looking to get her as much money as possible?
I think that's the job of an agent. They usually try to get the most money as possible.
Your testimony is they were looking to get the money for her, but you need somebody willing to pay on the other side of that deal, don't you?
Right, but agents are working with people in the industry and have a pulse on have a finger on a pulse of what's going on, so they know who's marketable and what the prices that all the streamers are paying these days.
You haven't seen a single one of the endorsement contracts that you referenced, other than Ms. Heard's?
No, other than, again, what I was talking to William Morris in terms of the pricing that they are aware of, not only for their own clients, but what's out in the marketplace, and it's pretty consistent. And I've also worked with other actors on other cases that have gotten similar contracts, so I'm familiar with the rates of endorsement contracts.
You haven't made any reference to the actual earnings of any of these actors.
Again, as you do an analysis, you put together the numbers that you know from both your experience and the marketplace and the agents that are working in the marketplace. So together, that's how I created those numbers, and mostly using Ms. Heard's numbers specifically and giving her a very steady career, which is what she had had prior to Aquaman.
Yeah, and you don't have the prior earnings of any of the actors you looked at other than Ms. Heard's.
No, I don't have all the contracts now.
You don't have any of that information.
I'm sorry?
You don't have any of that information?
No.
Okay. In fact, that information, I guess aside from Mr. Momoa's, is confidential, right?
Usually it is, yes.
Yeah. And the only reason you know anything about Mr. Momoa is that Ms. Heard shares an agent? Or an agency.
Right, but look, I've also been in the industry for many years, and I know what actors get paid. I talk about budget.